the most productive fishery of all of the Great Lakes. There's a statistic that Dr. Jeff Reuter uses that I love to parrot. It's not exact, as he says, but it is instructive. If you think about Lake Superior has 50% of the water of all of the Great Lakes, 2% of the species of fish. Lake Erie has 2% of the water of all of the Great Lakes and 50% of the fish. So you can get a sense about how nutrient rich, from a good way, that fishery is. Considered the walleye capital of the world. And this is just since the recovery from the early degradation in the 1960s. As we went into the 70s and 80s and 90s, walleye love this environment, shallow, warm water, nutrient rich. As they had been introduced, they have certainly taken off. It's a world-class fishery. We've got over 300 marinas. As you can see, we've also got 40% of all the Great Lakes charter boats. Charter boat industry is about $1.5 billion sport fishing industry, and tourism value just continues to go up. That value is just a little bit old. It's about $12.9 billion from a calculated economics. So just think about where we started just a few slides ago, where we were looking at the Cuyahoga River, burning the Cuyahoga River, and the declaration that Lake Erie was dead from a eutrophication standpoint, frankly, to where we are today. And as you can see, I talk about the recovery and how much of a significant recovery the ecosystem has made just in a very short period of time. And this is my Fred Flintstone graphic here. It's like, but wait a minute, I thought Lake Erie was dead, and what has happened? And I've talked a little about that, but I want to go into a little bit more detail. As I said, it's one of the most one of the best ecosystem recoveries in the world. And it didn't just happen without lots of, I think, incentives, as well as there are some external drivers that we want to talk about. So a confluence of several national and local factors. So Cuyahoga fire was certainly one, but as I mentioned before, it had burned in the past. And as the environmental historians had said, it really wasn't that big a deal. It's more of another factor in daily life going on in Cleveland, Ohio, that the Cuyahoga River catches on fire. It was not given much of a second thought by most. But at the time, against this confluence, there was a Cleveland mayoral election that was taking place. And it was the first time in 1969 that Cleveland had actually elected a black mayor, which was instructive and helpful. There was many of you studied, as you have gone through your environmental science courses, I call it the budding environmental awareness in the late 60s. Generation was really starting to take a look at how we were mechanizing, industrializing, and looking at the ramifications of that since post-World War II, and seeing that there were environmental challenges and impacts to human health that really needed to be addressed. But I think one of the greatest things was the August 1st, 1969 Time magazine. On it was the picture of the Kennedy, Kopechne, Chappaquiddick political issue of the time, but it also was the Neil Armstrong walking on the moon version, and inside was Lake Erie, pictures of Lake Erie burning in 1969. And so not only was the Lake Erie burning issue brought prominently to a national issue, but it was also on one of the most widely sold magazine covers in the time. And so it really brought a national prominence to the issue. And this is one of those things, if you take a broad look and make a broad generalization here, the idea about science informing policy and/or when and how it can do that, sometimes it needs a trigger. I consider that this issue, this is really the trigger where it was really an issue that was affecting more than just a small number of people, but it was affecting either the conscience of the nation or a large number of people in a very large way, where they then started asking questions and demanding answers and demanding some action. So I think this idea, where's the outcry? And then when does that outcry disappear? Is it an issue of the day that goes away? Or is it an issue that really brings policy leaders to change their focus on whatever that other crisis they'd been working on and focus on whatever this issue is today and start looking for solutions or answers? I use a generalization when I talk with the General Assembly, legislatures, and others about this, when we were talking about any particular environmental issue. the general public, in my view, is a broad generalization. We've all got a full plate of issues to worry about every day. We've got to take care of our kids. We've got to take care of our family. We've got to worry about our house. Got to walk the dog. We got to do whatever it is on our plate for the day. The last thing we want is to wake up, look out the window, and see metaphorically, and see some environmental threat that I need to now put on my plate and worry about. Are my kids going to be safe? Can I drink the water? Can we go to the beach today? Can I breathe the air? When those types of issues get put in the public's things that they have to worry about during any particular day, that's when you start getting enough momentum, in my view, where they really start demanding something of their public policy leaders. They can't just forget about it. It's not going to go away. And they really start driving the issue about trying to find out what the science is telling us is going on and what the solution is, how we monitor for that and put solutions in place.